the CPL playoff race is on. But we have to get to a spicy game that happened between Halifax and Pacific last night. On Wednesday night, it was pretty much a thriller, tying goals scored in the 90+6 minute. But here's the thing. Right out of the gate, we're going to talk about one player in particular. That game, by the way, ending in a draw. We'll get to the implications of that in just a moment. So 2-2 between Halifax and Pacific. But Dan Nimick, guys, once again this month, gets 2 yellows in a game. So he gets sent off for the second straight match. So let's talk about whether or not this was the right call. Gareth, I'm going to start with you because there's always a lot of debate about like, hey, ref, if you know a guy's on a yellow, maybe be a little bit more aware. You always have that camp. And then you have the other camp of letter of the law is the letter of the law. Which camp are you in?
I'm in the camp that Dan Nimick should not have been sent off in this moment. I think it's a rash. It's a harsh decision where the player is essentially being penalized for not being goal side of the ball. Look, we're going to take a look at this. I mean, the first caution coming up, okay, I get it. But when the player's on a caution, the referee, and this was our criticism on match night this week, sometimes you just need to read what the moment's all about, the magnitude of the moment, and read the play at that time. It's the second incident right here. Dan Nimick, heavy touch on the ball, gets caught wrong side, tries to get his arm across the player, and then he's sent off because of it. I don't think that I understand why the referee made the call. I understand why he's justified in giving a caution in that moment, because by the interpretation of the law, Nimick's then gone on to spoil what could have been a decent attack or potential goal scoring opportunity. But for me, that's just a player trying to get right side of the ball. And I think that in that moment, if the referee was reading the play a little bit more, they would have just called the foul and not sent him off. I just thought it was completely unnecessary. He wasn't the last man back. There was a couple other defenders back in that moment. I just don't want to get into the business of sending off players because they're trying to tackle from a position that's not goal side. It's very, very soft for me.
Okay, so you don't like that. Jordan, where are you with this?
I think Ben Hoskins, we talked about it last week on Match Night, and I've said it publicly that I think there should be a little bit of a consequence for referees that make poor decisions. And that poor decision was against Valor with Dante Campbell and the handball. And I don't think he should have been reffing that game. However, I think he got it right. The 2 yellows that were given for Dan Nimick, I think they're right. The first one, I don't think anyone's arguing about. And the second one, when I've watched it back and looked at it and even watched it in real time, when you're center back and a striker's coming out and pressuring you and you lose the ball for whatever reason and you're on a yellow, let him live. You cannot grab, you cannot pull. And he just did that 2 weeks ago in Pacific. Look, I'm not getting at Dan Nimick. I've done this mistake many a time. And you're going to get booked when you're center back and you're stopping a goal scoring opportunity. I agree with Wheels. He's not the last man, but he's still a defender. And if Zanata was running through on goal, it would have been a 3v2 or whatever type of situation. You know, more times than not, I would say 9 times out of 10, if you grab someone as a center back and they're on the wrong side of you, you're getting booked. So Ben Hoskins, as much as I don't think he should have been reffing this game because of my hope or my desire for referees to have a little bit of a competition and to get punished when they make certain mistakes, the fact that he started this match and he gave the yellow to Dan Nimick 11 minutes before, I think it's good enough. It's warranted. You cannot pull, you cannot grab specifically as a center back. And that's why you say as well, if a player, defender, right back, whatever, has a yellow card, everyone says run at them because there's these situations where they grab you or they kick your back leg. He grabbed him. He
almost let up. As soon as he did, he
almost let up. You're right.
His arm across because he understood in that moment. So in a split second, he went from and then just tried to recalibrate.
So let me ask you a question.
Down, he stumbled back. Like, come on.
If Nimick wasn't on a yellow already, would you give him a yellow for that foul?
Probably not, because I don't think that's where the bar should be in that moment. I wouldn't, but I think a referee would be much more justified to give a yellow in that moment than giving another one when a player is already on a caution.
So like the purpose for a yellow already in a game is to change your behavior. So when I have a yellow, and everyone knows that you know as well, when you're given a yellow, it's like you have to act properly. So you got a yellow in the 21st minute. So when Zanata's going by him, this is what he should have done. What I do when I go in my house and I'm not supposed to touch something. Hey, you're on the wrong side. My hands are up. My legs are running like this.
not how instinctually
100%.
anyone plays. Anyone.
That's
no one
how you
plays like
play
that.
when you're on a yellow. That's how you play
No
when you're
one-
on a yellow. And
no,
that's
no,
how
no,
he
no.
should have done it. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. The
so-
second yellow was
No, you
justified.
don't.
Let's
sure.
try and break this. I don't know, Ollie, if you
This is
want to
great.
be, if
No,
you want to
don't
break
even-
a tie
100%.
here. You
You
good?
play like that when you're on the yellow for some time.
I'm enjoying this.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah. So we're always going to have the camp that will put the onus on the ref to also be aware of a situation. And then we'll have the other camp, which will put the onus of the player to also be aware of the situation. But either way, guys, we know that this, obviously was a trickle down effect a little bit because we started to see the goals being scored in the second half. Obviously, with Halifax being down, Pacific, like I said, they're the ones who get the tying goal in the 90+6 minute. So, that's huge for Pacific to stay in the race, leapfrogging Vancouver, now holding on to that final playoff spot. Halifax, as we know, desperate for full 3 points to try and catch that fifth and final playoff spot. I mean, so many things were happening here, Ollie. What does this result ultimately mean?
I don't think it was a foul, first of all, but we can move on.
You just have to sneak it in, okay?
It's so funny that I'm the player that's all aggressive and like, oh, tackles. And I look at that and I'm watching back and I'm like, that's good enough to be
I don't really blame the ref because on the live look, I thought exactly the same. Nimick's held him back, but I've watched it back like 25 times. I'm not sure he actually does. I think Zanassa
doesn't hold him
Nimick
back.
as much as the other way.
Swims and cross. Yeah.
But
It doesn't go like this and pull his waist.
No, I think he's trying to get around him, but I don't think he actually holds or grabs him.
Okay, quickly. If you're trying to get around a player as a center back and you have to swim, what do? You're impeding the player from going forward. You have to let him go. You can't touch him. He's
being punished for not being goal side.
That's because he was in the position. So that's why I got a yellow.
Let's bring up the table. Bring up the table. Show us the standings, because obviously that was a huge point for Pacific here, Ollie.
Well, I'm actually not so sure. I think this is a better result in the end, given the circumstances, really, despite the late goal for Halifax than it is for Pacific. Like when I look at Pacific's schedule the rest of the way, I think it's the most difficult of any team in the CPL. And you had an opportunity against 10 men for like an hour to get 3 points on the road against a direct rival, and they didn't do it. And they nearly lost, which would have been a complete disaster. But I don't even think that a point is that great a result for them. They could have killed Halifax here. They didn't do it. Halifax, as much as this one is going to sting for multiple reasons, they're still in the fight. Like it's 4 points with several games to go. So I think once Halifax kind of get over the disappointment of that late goal, they're the team that will come out of this feeling like that result might be a little bit better for them than it is for Pacific for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Ollie, this might be your best show you've ever done here because I agree with you on all fronts. This is a blown opportunity for Pacific, and it took like some incredible goals, and this was a really good watch. Look at this TMG at the death. I mean, that's a really good finish by a center back and the best player on Pacific this season. It might be just enough to keep them in that mix. And look, they're in the 5th spot right now. I just look at the schedule going forward. Valor has a by far easier schedule than anyone else of that trailing pack. And that there's 4 points separating 5th from 8th. Every team is right in the mix, but teams like Pacific, Halifax, they're going to go out and have to win some very difficult games, including both away from home this Sunday on short rest. It's going to be a difficult one. Yeah. For me, this was a must-win game. The draw, you can't be excited if you're either club, to be honest.
Okay, so I don't know if it's possible to bring up the standings again, because we do. I mean, every game now matters. You just see how tight things are. Like even Forge being number 1 isn't secure. There's still a lot of maneuvering that can happen here. To your point, guys, and we'll get to Valor in just a moment with you, Wheels, because I know you feel like this is really huge. Because again, you look at where they are. 5th place is 27 points. Valor 23. So when it comes to the weekend of games, Jordan, I'll start with you first. Which one are you watching?
Has to be Cavs against York, and I'm actually color commentating with the Adam Jenkins. Is nice because we got to see York United live a couple weeks back.
Adam Jenkins.
And just 1 point
the Ohio State.
He gets 2 E's. With York on 36 points and Cavs on 35. This has to be the game, right? Like
that's a tight one.
In Canadian Premier League fashion, this could easily be a 1-1, 2-2, 0-0 draw, and you're like, oh, nothing really changes. However, if there's a team that gets 3 points and have 4 matches left to play in this beautiful Canadian Premier League, and that would be York with 39 or Cavs with 38. Then they're flirting and looking at that second place spot, maybe that 1 or 2 game. Everything is on the table. But if you lose, you can kind of say like, it's an uphill climb. So for York at home, being there this past week, Benjamin Moore, they believe that they always talk about number 1. And I'm there as a former York player saying, look, this is the most successful season that you guys had. Like almost like be happy that no. Number 1 is the one. So they have to win. You cannot tie, especially with York's run of playing Atletico Ottawa and Forge as well. They have to go and get the 3 points. But on the contrary, Cavs, if they want to be that team and compete for a North Star Cup, they have to get that high seed. So this is a huge match.
What are you watching, Wheels?
Jordan's just looking forward to any game with a soft sending off because that's right up his alley. I'm looking at Valor.
This approach now.
Yeah. It is a flip right there. Valor hosting Halifax Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. That is a crucial game. Valor right now, they play Halifax this weekend. Pacific home Monday, September 30th. Forge home October 6th, a team they play very well against. Then they go on the road to play Vancouver. Those are 4 winnable games, and they could really change the complexion of this race. No Dan Nimick. We know why, Jordan Wilson this weekend. So let's see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ollie, what are you watching?
I'm going to go to the top of the table because I think it's just too gotta have them type of games for the teams that are in best position to win the CPL Shield right now. Forge going to Vancouver off of that bad result. In Halifax, they're playing against a team that right now is a mess. I understand it's an away game and long travel, but I think that has to be a win for Forge. And then Atletico Ottawa playing Pacific at home, a Pacific side that's traveled across the country, played in midweek. Again, that's a home game that I think you've got to win if you're Atletico Ottawa and have aspirations of winning that CPL Shield. So pressures on those two to get 3 points.
Does Ollie Bassett play this weekend?
That's the question.
It's spicy.
Yes. I love this. I love that it's coming down to this. I love the parody. I think that this format that they put together obviously gives us a lot to talk about too. And if we remember, right, winning the Shield gets you into CONCACAF Champions Cup. That's why this also matters before then going on and having the aspirations to win the cup. So a lot still to be decided in the final weeks of the Canadian Premier League. All those matches right here on One Soccer. Let's get now to our Visa Women's Soccer Report. All right, gentlemen, the Canadian women have confirmed that they will have a pair of friendlies in October. Both will be played in Europe. The second match hasn't been confirmed yet, but we know that their first match will be on October 25th in Spain against the defending World Cup champions. Ollie, how significant is this announcement? And what questions do you have? Because this is going to be the first time we're going to be seeing these players after that whole scandal, and we know everything about DroneGate coming out of the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant game in terms of the opponent. Obviously, it's significant that they're playing. I was starting to wonder a little bit, obviously, with this window coming up and everything that's surrounding this team. And there's a ton of questions. Who is going to coach the team? Is it going to be a continuation of the Olympics with that kind of interim staff? Is there going to be something else in place? When is this investigation? Obviously, chiefly into Beth Priestman's role in the drone stuff. When is that going to be concluded? When are we going to have some answers on that front? But then also just more broadly, like, how are we taking this team forward over the next couple of years as we enter a new World Cup and Olympic cycle here? When you look at what they've done since the gold medal, with a labor dispute, with a flop at the World Cup a couple of years ago, with an Olympics that was ruined by a drone scandal, this isn't the way to build a program that keeps pace with the top teams in the world, right? Like, the next 4 years have to look different than the last few have. So a lot of questions to be answered, and just overall, I think like a program that's in need of a fresh start and a new vision from someone coming in here.
Yeah, it's very it's a weird feeling around it. I know maybe Wheels, if you want to comment on it too, because we have reached out to Canada Soccer. They have once again reiterated that it is a third-party investigator who is looking into this. So they are not controlling the timing of the investigation, therefore not controlling any announcements. And because of that, they're in this holding pattern. Because as of right now, we know Andy Spence took over as interim, and their belief is that he will continue to be the interim head coach. But Bev Priestman is still the head coach. Canada Soccer is not making any move, even though she's been suspended a year by FIFA. They're not making any move to remove her until results of this investigation come to light. So it does feel like they're in this holding pattern. Dare I say, it almost feels like you're a little bit in purgatory because you want to move forward, but how do you do that if you don't have this vision with a coach and off the pitch and moving forward? I don't know how you're feeling about it, Wheels.
Well, first of all, Canada aren't the only team that has gone through scandal or controversy. The world champions in Spain have dealt with something very, very serious in their own right. So I'm not bothered by that. In fact, I think that the Canadian women's national team came out of the Olympics, looking really good. The fact, the way they went about their business, the way that they played, I think that it was a really galvanizing tournament, despite the difficulties off the field. Because of that, that's why I think that there will be some momentum heading into this friendly. I do think it's watchable. I do think that this investigation needs to wrap up as soon as possible so everyone can move forward without just this dark cloud hanging over. And I include not only the team, the staff, the association, but fans as well. Like, they want to be following the team. They don't want to be monitoring stuff like this anymore. I think people are just sick of this stuff. They just want to see the team perform on the field. So if this is part of that equation, getting them back on the field, playing tough competitors, showing well in those games, then all good for me. No matter if it's an interim manager or not, the team needs to play on the field. These young players need time playing together, playing for the national team. So I think there is something to look forward to here.
Yeah. So once again, a couple friendlies. The only one so far that's been confirmed is the one against Spain on October 25th. Let's get to our TonyBet top picks. All right, I'm going to start with Ollie on this one. As we get to our top picks, we have the Canadian Premier League action. Obviously, we just mentioned York United at home facing Cavalry. York United plus 229. Cavalry plus 110. Ollie, who you got?
I'm going to take York United in this one to get a little bit of revenge for the last time we saw this game. That's a big number for them at home. And I think, like I said on Monday, I think this team is being underrated a little bit. Obviously, Brian Wright's health is a big factor for them. But I think they've kept their head above water without some key players. And if they can get any of them back, they're a good side.
You agreeing, Jordan?
No, this time of year, usually Ollie and I are in sync. Usually Wheels and I are in sync. But I guess I'm the odd one out. I guess I'm the one who's been sleeping in the shed out in the cold.
Lost it.
I think this is Calgary all day. I think with where they are in fourth, they're getting 3 points Friday night. They've been tactical with them. They've been clinical. They've been finishing off games properly when they need to. This is a must-win game for them. I see them stepping up and getting the 3 points.
If there's any game with draw written all over it, it's this one. This is screams 1-1. Cavalry 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
York United just don't have enough to play them off the park. This is draw written all over it, Andy.
Both teams looking at each other in the 70th minute saying, you want a point? I'll take a point. Okay.
Okay. Boo.
Boo.
Valor, underdogs at home against Halifax. Wheels?
How are they under? What's the market? What are the bookmakers doing here? Halifax played midweek. Valor at home, rested, playing good football. The first of many at home. Give me Valor all day, all night.
Ollie?
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think Halifax have played very well the last 2 games, and the best 11 that they can put out now. Obviously, Nimic's out of it again, but it's a good team. It's a good team they have now. I think they could finish the season strong, but Valor being underdogs at home, again, like we said, with the rest factored in, you have to go with Valor.
Jordo.
It's a now or never moment for Valor. I think they'll rise to the occasion. I really do. I think they have it. Phil seems calm as well. I talked to Phil DeSantos. He seems very calm. Like, we're not getting fourth, but we're slipping in at fifth, and we're going to make a run. He seems very cool, calm, and collected for a manager in his position.
Third best team in the league.
So we literally have 40 seconds. I just want you to see who you're picking as we go across the pond here. English Premier League, Manchester City hosting Arsenal. Jordan, who are you taking?
Of course, it's Man City.
Okay, Ollie.
No.
Ollie.
Arsenal plus 350.
Yo, you have more faith than me. What?
Wheels, who you got?
Arsenal play Thursday in the Champions League. That's a tough sked. No Odegaard. No bueno. Give me City in this one.
All right, there we go. That's it. Unless you want to give a little quick here. Just for you, Wheels, Crystal Palace or United?
I abstain. Give me United. Hey, refresh. We scored 7 like on Tuesday. Unbelievable.
Go on.
There you go. All right, Wheels, Ollie, Jordo,